own show prep. So, so he had no idea.
I just barely make it in.
I'm sure you can tell, but we don't show.
I mean, let's put the cards down on the table here.
Miami Hurricanes, yeah. You know the name already. It's Mercy, ha ha. It's a 6-Rig Kane show. Can't forget the name though. Got Jazz, Blue, Vision, DJ break the game code. Ain't no changing them, ain't no breaking them. Real Portland live from the Hard Rock Stadium. Ball 14 for the orange and green. We see the 6-Rig champs. There's more to the dream. This is life on the field. Beyond 100 yards, a hurricane that's never still put a damage to your squad. The 6-Rig Kane show. The 6-Rig Kane show. The 6 Rings Kane show. You know.
What's wrong with us? Seriously.
What's wrong with us? We're Miami Hurricanes fans.
Welcome to the 6 Rings Kane Show, a show dedicated to Miami Hurricane sports, featuring the legendary Larry Bluestein, Jazz Santana, Vish, and Danny Gillette. Let's go Canes.
Yo, welcome back, everybody. I'm playing a little bit hurt here today. Getting back from out of town, and of course I caught a cold, so here I am on the struggle bus. But glad to have everybody back. We're only 34 days away, Vish. But who's counting, man? I see we got the.
I think I counted ahead of time. It's in the show notes now, so make sure I did the math.
Oh man, you did, which I'm disappointed, man. You were just supposed to know that right off the top of your head. All right.
Look, it's year. It's been progressively Mario's getting better. We're ready for some show prep, so
you're right.
We gotta rise to the challenge here. We gotta rise to the challenge.
I hate to say it, ladies and gentlemen, but we are show prepping just a little bit now because.
Look, man, we gotta get serious here. We're championship program, championship show here.
Hey, we made it 5 years without show prep, so I mean, we stuck true for the first 4.
Well, me, Danny, and Vish are getting a little bit older. Blue is just getting finer like wine, baby. That's right. That's right. So we got to do something. Now we're gonna forget half the shit we talk about anyway. So, speaking of that, let's give a shout out to our sponsor. Real quick here, it's the U-Brake will fix. Have you ever run over a pothole so hard your steering wheel starts to shake? Are you constantly losing air in your tires and you need to keep adding air to them? Chances are there's an issue with your wheels, and U-Brake will fix is your solution. U-Brake will fix is Miami's premier wheel repair and restoration company. With over 20 years of experience and located in North Miami, U-Brake will fix offers quick repairs for damaged wheels, and in most cases, can offer you free loaner wheels to help you stay on the road while they repair your damaged wheels. If your wheels are looking weathered and it's time to freshen up your car, don't replace some of those wheels, refinish them. Their in-house wheel refinishing solutions such as powder coating, machining, and polishing will give your car the light blue look it deserves. So contact Mark and his staff at 305-748-0112 or on all social media outlets. It's at U-Brake will fix. That's the letter U, Brake, Wheel Fix. Mention 5 Reasons Sports and get 5.5% off your next repair. That's U-Brake Wheel Fix, powder coating, and wheel repair. 305-748-0112. Check them out. Oh, we got a lot to cover. Today. Since I'm playing a little injury here, I know that this will help me carry the weight here a little bit. For the whole team, but we got a lot to talk about. Some recruiting news that broke this past week, and some late transfer portal addition to the 2025 class too, which is an interesting one. I wanted to talk about a little bit with you guys. Also, He is sort of like the Cam McCormick of this class for Miami Hurricanes. It seems like. So we'll talk to Vish, Blue, and DJ about Britton Allen. I hope I said that right, Britton Allen. The late addition. But before we get to him, we spoke about this a little bit last week, right, guys? So Cortez Redding finally makes it semi-official and commits to the Miami Hurricanes. Another nice safety product out of Jonesboro. Another guy. He actually plays. I realized this Blue late, so I didn't get to mention it, but he plays with Jontavius Wyman over there at Jonesboro, if I'm not mistaken. So we get two of the top safeties in top defensive backs in Georgia on the same team there. Now both are committed to Miami, making some big time headway. I know we've had some luck with Jonesboro and some of the other schools in Georgia in the past, but nice little pair to get there. What do you like about Cortez Redding's game, Luke?
I was on this morning with Alex, and we were talking about that as well. And kid has the ability to play corner, and that's what I'm saying. You know, he's got great cover skills. He's fluid, but he'll hit you like a linebacker. He's got good straight lane speed, very strong, great reaction. I watched him in 5 of his games. He went up against one of the best receivers in the state of Georgia, one of the best in the East, and he neutralized him. He gave up 2 or 3 catches. The thing that I like about him is he never gives up. He got taken out of a play, and I don't watch the highlights. Are nice for birthday parties, but I like to watch the whole games and stuff. So, and watched him. He got beat and knocked to the ground, and he got up and made the play at the end. And I like that. You know, I mean, when you get beat, you know, everybody's going to get beat. Even the best players are going to get beat, you know, and even the best quarterbacks are going to throw interceptions, and even the best receivers are going to drop balls. But that tells me a lot about a player like that, because there was a play where he came in to make a play, and the guy kind of ran him over, but he was pushed into him running him over. And he fell to the ground. He was on his back. The kid cut to the outside. He got up quickly and caught up to him and made the play. So those type of things I look for. It's easy to see a guy makes breaks up a pass, or, you know, jars a ball loose on a run, or, you know, crushes a kid coming across the middle. But I like how fluid he is. And I just like the how he plays the game, you know, plays it from start to finish. And that's not a lot of people. Believe me, some people get beaten, knocked to the ground, and stay there. So
DJ seems like he's got a pretty good motor then, right? Like that's something he's persevered, he's strong, he's athletic, like he mentioned, but he also doesn't give up on anything. So I mean, it's important to have something like that, especially at the next level when you're gonna get knocked down, when you're gonna get beat, to be able to recover, right?
Yeah, definitely. And when you look at the identity of this defense overall, what Heffernan is trying to establish, a physical defense, one where the corners can get after the ball carrier, and not just in coverage, but coming down to make a tackle. I mean, Redding fits the identity of this defense very well. And, you know, like Blue alluded to, he's physical. You know, he can battle back if he's out of a play. And I believe he had 96 tackles last year. And you mentioned it as well. This is another kid from Jonesboro, a program that has had success the last 2 seasons, 8-4 records the past 2 years. And so I think, you know, if you establish a pipeline in Georgia with Jonesboro, that's definitely a solid, you know, tree to pick from, so to speak. So I really like this addition. I think Redding is extremely athletic, and I'm excited to see what he can do with Miami. He's got a great motor, and Miami has had success at the safety position over the last couple of years. So, I mean, this is just another, you know, addition to that, hopefully.
Yeah, Vish, I know I kind of felt like we were going to be done after this. I think we're done now with the safeties or with the D-back position. But overall, just, you know, give me your overall take. We went from, you know, it being our weak position, our weak point, to getting 6 guys in this past class, including the portal. Well, 7 now. which we'll talk about in a second, and now just continuing to stack up for next year's class with guys like Portis and Redding and Wyman and so on, and the list goes on and on and on. This shouldn't be a weak position anymore for the Kings for a couple of years at least, right?
Yeah, you'd think. I mean, I don't want to be skeptical, but portal and best laid plans and all that. But yeah, no, definitely there was a concerted effort to upgrade the talent at the position. That was done. You mentioned added a portal kid for 2025 this past week, so they're always looking to be opportunistic and add talent, and obviously they did that here with Cortez Redding, and I think if you look at DJ and Blue, obviously broke him down in detail. If you look at the mold of the player they're looking for, its physical and its speed, and you got to fit in at least one of those buckets. And he's definitely a big kid that'll hit people, and I think that's. I think if anything, Mario talked about this quite a bit at Media Days, which I know is the next segment, in terms of after the first 4 games, the defense fell off pretty heavily, and I'm sure that was painful for him as it was for us. So that's why he fired all the coaches. But also, I mean, I think probably the most painful part for him is how soft the defense was. It wasn't physical. It wasn't, they weren't rising to meet the challenge, because even if you're bad, you want to see those moments of stepping up and hitting people, and just it was inability to prevent big plays or any of that. So I think this is just, again, we've seen this with Mario, not just at the safety position or the cornerback position, but throughout of when he sees a problem, he's not shy about how he addresses it. He doesn't dance around. He puts everything into it. And so clearly, watching our season disintegrate in Syracuse because they couldn't stop the pass, I think this is a reaction to that. And like you said, he's just continuing to stack talent on top of talent on top of talent. And, look, everyone's not going to be here down the road because that's the nature of current college football. But if you can keep a majority here, yeah, this position's stacked. It'll be one of the top ones in the country as these kids mature.
I agree. And lastly, before we get into Media Day, what that all was about, Britton Allen, Blue, a late addition, as we mentioned, to this defensive backfield for this class. He comes in. Some are saying automatically inserts himself into the too deep depth. That's how, he's a good ball player. He's obviously been around for a while, played at USC, played at Utah as well. I'm assuming battled some injuries. He's in his 7th season coming up now, I believe, in college football. What can you tell me about Britton Allen and his talent level, what he can kind of bring to the table here for Miami this year?
Yeah, I've known Bam since he was 9. He played at Lake Highland Prep in Orlando. He's a kid that obviously came out very highly recruited. FSU, Florida, Miami was on him initially a long time ago. But he went to USC. Didn't really make a splash. Kid, he's got skills. I mean, he's 24 years old. But he's got some skills. He hits, he gets injured. That's the only thing that kind of is a little bit of a negative, is that he gets injured a lot. But he's a great addition to the team. I thought he was going to do well. I thought he was going to settle in at Utah and be that guy out there, but I guess it just didn't work out. I think he's in his 6th or 7th year. Am I wrong? Because he's been around. I think he took the portal year, and he got
a waiver. He got a waiver for
the portal year.
So if he sticks around for next year, he could have his 8th year out of because he got the waiver for it. Yeah,
and he's got the portal year too that he had in there. Right. And but I like him. He's going to be a veteran guy. He's going to be more of a a soothing type of guy, a Messidor type of older player that has, been there, done that, especially with his injuries and bouncing around. Sometimes that gets you a little bit more, seasoned, a little bit more mature quicker. But, great addition. I just, Miami's just piling on to where they need to pile on, getting all these players, because last year they certainly didn't have that type of talent at that position. Just Juan Manuel, I just want to just quickly tell you, I think it's funny because, DJ Lagway's walking around with a boot already. They didn't even practice it.
Yeah.
So I understand. Yeah, I don't know if he's made out of glass, but they're expecting a lot out of him. I hope he goes 3 for 30 against Miami.
Yeah, no kidding. So that's if he even plays apparently now, right?
And Dante Simpson, question.
Go ahead, you can answer
that. The Dante Simpson question, stud. Covered his dad. Dad put him to South Broward, wrestler, good, versatile football player. Dante's a lot bigger. He's 6'5", 300 pounds, very strong. The only thing that he separates him from really getting on the field with any, regularity is he's got to get a lot more reps in there. He's got to learn. And going against that offensive line, he'll get a baptism under fire. But once he gets it, boy, I'll tell you what, he's 3-C in the NFL because he's that type of kid. He's a grounded kid. He's got a lot of family members that have played the game, and they're a Hollywood family, and I know them pretty well. And he was a steal when they got him, and he's a steal now. And as soon as he learns a little bit more, and Damian Lewis gets with him, and starts showing him a little bit what to do with his hands, because he's strong and he's just lacks experience, just like a lot of the young guys. Like, the same thing with the other kid that they got in there. Can't think of his name offhand, but he's another one that's just going to be a stud. But they're both young and they have to learn, what they're doing. And but yeah, no, he's a beast, no doubt.
Very good, very good.
Didn't mean to get you off your
no, you're good. Does anybody want else?
Your syllabus there? So
no, you're good. Anybody else want to chime in on Britton Allen or Dante Simpson or anything like that?
DJ, you watch any of the film on him at all?
Yeah, I think he's a really good veteran addition. I mean, like you guys talked about, they kind of had to rebuild the safety room in a way, and I feel like, injuries have been a problem for him. I mean, it's been hard for him to escape the injury bug, but I think that as long as he can, even if he doesn't necessarily put up the numbers, he's a veteran voice on a relatively young defense, especially when you look at, the defensive line and things like that. So I think, he's probably not going to be an All-American by any means, but he is a good addition in the sense that he's played, big-time college football. He can provide kind of that consistency to the safety position, and what you're going to get from him. And so I think in that way, he's a really good addition. And, sometimes it's important to have those types of players, guys that may not put up numbers, but guys that can just stabilize the room. And I think he can do that for Miami.
Yeah, I'll just answer Juan Manuel's question here real quick. No, they don't. So.
No.
Well, the thing about O.J. Frederick is he came from Deerfield, went to St. Thomas, and kind of blended in with the other 5 stars that they had. So, yeah, I don't think that Dante was underrated. I think a lot of people saw him, throughout the process. Wasn't he committed to like NC State or something? I know he was committed. And then I forgot who, but I mean, he was committed early on, and then Miami kind of, I forgot. Maybe one of the guys remember, but and Artavius Jones, just to put that up real quick, as long as they're asking questions. The thing about Artavius, he come out of Blountstown. How much play you going to get? I mean, I told you the story when Miami got him, that Coach Johnson told me when he first got on campus as a 9th grader, he was going to be a beast. He was always highly, regarded, but they were playing Liberty County and we were Hitchcock and all these teams that didn't peg the meter. So obviously, but everybody in that panhandle knew about him. FSU knew very well about him. I know Ole Miss knew about him, but so he went kind of like under the radar to fans down here, I mean, and it's not cut to the fans. The fans see what, they don't go to these games and they don't see the kids at camps, so they are not supposed to know. But Dante Simpson was very much on the radar. I will give into the fact that O.J. Frederick really wasn't. You know, when he's at Daytona, at Deerfield, he was a good football player, but then he made it over to St. Thomas, and people weren't. He didn't stand out above anybody else because they had Mac and those guys like that who were pretty damn good themselves. So. Just gotta know what you're looking for. I know people say they're good recruiters, but you can go to games and watch and not see the same thing. If you don't know what you're looking for in a kid, anybody can see a kid could tackle or run, but there's different things about them. Just like you look at the kids that we were just talking about, like Britton. Britton, when he was at Lake Highland High School, I mean, he's a kid, played receiver, he played everywhere. And if you get somebody versatile like that, you know that they're going to be able to grasp at least one of those positions and kind of run with it a little bit. It's like LaWayne McCoy at Florida State. I mean, here's a guy that everybody wanted, and people say, "Oh man, he came out of nowhere." He didn't come out of nowhere. These guys don't really come out of nowhere. Over the weekend, I was at this Crib Classic, which was a combine, up in, in Miami, and they had, everybody was good, I mean, and these are guys that a lot of people never really heard of because they don't see these kids during the course of an off season. When we last left the season, maybe these kids weren't lighting it up because they were in 10th grade or 9th grade. But now that they've gotten 6, 7, 8 months to mature, naturally and through, weight training and going to 7-on-7s and going to camps and combines, a lot of these kids, kind of like, they mature. And you'll see a lot of these kids that we saw over the weekend, that this coming year, everyone's go, "Oh, I never heard of that guy before," but they've been around. It's just that they grab onto teams like Northwestern or St. Thomas or Chaminade, and they're not going to jump over a Jeremiah Johnson, or Jeremiah Smith, and they're just not going to. So they're role players until they're not. So that's it.
We do have one more question in the chat before we kind of pivot to our next segment. So the whole panel, how's the feeling on the roster, talent-wise for 25 and coaching-wise?
Well, we're kind of going through every show. We're kind of different positions and kind of giving you our take on those. But after we're done with that, we are going to give assessments of what we feel. What we feel the schedule, the record's going to be like. So I'm sure we'll give our assessments on how we feel roster-wise. Also, when it comes to that, we'll probably give our starting 11 on 11 from each side. Also, so I would tune into that in the next couple of weeks.
We do the predictions, and that'll tell a lot about where we feel about this team.
But we feel good. Let's just put it that way. We feel like this is an ACC championship contending team and a playoff contender as well. Let's just put it that way. So
and the just on a, kind of on a macro level, every single year. Actually, good transition into there was ACC Media Days last week, and Mario talked about where the program is now from when he came in, and I would say that 25, much like 24, much like 23, every year the talent's got better, and I think that happened again this summer. So it's a high level. But speaking of Media Days, so every year in Charlotte they do the ACC kickoff, where the team, all those schools are there from the ACC and select players as well. So the Canes are represented by Mario, and then Carson Beck, Wesley Bassint, Akeem Mesidor, Francis Mauinoa. So that was the Canes lineup. So DJ, I'll start with you. Any take? Look, for everyone's awareness, this is like it's a media event. It's very much the players are coached up. You're not going to get a lot out of that, so we understand that. But still, it is noteworthy because it is kind of the official start of football season. So DJ, start with you. Maybe any thoughts on kind of what came out of that?
Well, Carson Beck talked about, coaching up the guys every single play, watching film with his receivers, trying to get the guys on the same page as him. And obviously that's kind of what you would hope for your starting quarterback. But it was still nice to hear, given that, he's been battling injuries and yet he's still out there trying to coach the guys, trying to get them all on the same page. He was watching film with them and, teaching the wide receivers certain things, as he said. He was trying to teach, he said, quote, he was trying to teach everybody the way I see the game so that we're all on the same page. And I think, building that kind of cohesiveness, that consistency, so that, one move or, one, throw from Carson Beck is second nature to the wide receivers is extremely important because, cohesiveness between quarterback and wide receiver is what makes the best offenses flow. So I thought that was really, really refreshing to hear, especially with the transfer quarterback just coming in and trying to learn the system. And, like you said, Vish, obviously, these are kind of, I don't want to call them puff events, but they're very media coached. And it was still nice to hear him and that he was, working with the wide receivers, trying to coach them up and watching film with them. And it gives me confidence that he'll be able to start the year strong, provided he's healthy.
Yeah, Blue, do you have any thoughts on the media event?
Yeah, I thought Carson Beck was pretty funny with Mark Richt. They both came from Georgia, and Mark Richt said you got more money than I did. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
I thought that was a little light.
But it's funny because it's true statements, but
yeah,
yeah.
I'm just, you didn't. Mark Richt isn't somebody that you would think that has humor. I mean, he's. But I thought that was funny. But you know what? Listen, they all. I thought the interesting part is when Mario was asked a question about when you arrived, you had all this talent, and he kind of like. That was Alex's buddy from ACC, Locked On ACC, that asked a question, and he just said, "I respectfully disagree," and because and we know, look at the change in the roster over the last 4 or 5 years. They went from just average 5, 6, 7 win team to a program like Jazz said is on the cusp of contending for the ACC. And I made a statement this morning that I felt this from overall both sides of the ball is the best roster they've had in 20 years. They've got, you can't dispute it because it's been a long time since they've had an offensive line this dominant. It's been a long time since they've had this much experience in the secondary. And that went from just, a high school looking defensive secondary last year. They've shored up the defensive line to the point, so yeah, I think that when Mario, you see, when you cover a team from afar and you don't get a chance to look at the roster on a daily basis or a weekly basis like we do, I can understand. There's a lot of teams that I look at and on the surface will make a comment about, but then I'll look at it and I'll say, oh, okay. Well, Miami, you look at what Mario has done, and I think he addressed this every year we've made changes. And last year, the defense, personnel-wise, and they made 5 defensive coaching changes, including a coordinator. So, he's the new linebacker coach, and they got Damian Lewis came on, 2 defensive secondary coaches. So I think his ability to keep up with what needs to be corrected is the reason Miami's in the position they are now.
And it's never been from a position of hesitancy either. He's always gotten things done quickly. He's addressed things quickly. For the most part, he doesn't let things draw out either in terms of making these decisions, and he knows what he wants. So I kind of like how he's been able to, identify what he wants and address it in the way that he sees fit and not kind of let the problems linger.
Yeah, I thought it was, in addition to the question that Blue referenced where he talked about, how much the talent has changed over time. Because the question was asked in the context of, Miami's always loaded with talent and yet hasn't won the ACC, struggled. And he was like, that's the part. He was like, I'm challenging on that because the team I inherited was not loaded with talent. And it wasn't. That 5-7 team from his first year was pretty awful. And on paper as well. So he challenged that. But then also when he was talking about the defensive struggles last year, he was very candid about it, which he said after the first 4 games, there was a big drop off. We had some injuries and we tried to adjust to it schematically. And that just made things worse, and we really got out of sorts, and we couldn't get back together as a team, and because of that, he made a move there. And Mario's infamous, I think, intentionally for giving nothing away in media settings, and say 1,000 words and say absolutely nothing of substance on purpose. So it's pretty interesting to see him very openly discuss discuss these issues and I think embrace the expectations that this is a big year for him and for the program. So that was interesting. Jazz, your thoughts on the media scrum there?
Excuse me, I'm sorry about that.
Well, as much as you can talk.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's like, as some of you mentioned, it's a little bit of a puff piece, right? They're just there to kind of talk it up. Honestly, what I was most impressed with was Rhett Lashley the whole week, right? First of all, giving us a shout out, recognizing that we probably should have made the playoffs over a team like Alabama, which, Vish, I know we've discussed ad nauseum at this point, how much you think that was kind of a screw job, which, a lot of people tend to agree, so including myself. But how much better the ACC is than I think college football gives them credit for. There's a hell of a lot of teams in this entire conference that are tough to play, man. And I know some people don't want to talk about, like, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has year after year some of the best defenses. They have some of the best defensive coaches in college football year after year. They spit out, high draft picks at defensive end, at linebacker, at corner, from time to time. Look at this kid Kalijah Cansey, who's balling right now. Some other guys, Mohammed something, I can't remember his last name, but some of these really, really good defensive linemen that they spit out. Virginia Tech is always a tough team. They can kick anybody's ass at any time. Syracuse, obviously, last year, I know this year they might take a step back, they might not, right? They got Angeli at quarterback. They've been able to recruit some guys. They lost some guys. They may not be as good as they were before, but the point I'm trying to get at is, I think top to bottom, I think the ACC is a lot better than the SEC or the Big Ten give them credit for. He mentioned a bunch of things about the national championship, and I won't get into it. But the point I think that he was making is that we're a damn good football team, the Miami Hurricanes. A lot of teams in the ACC, and I think the rest of the college football world should watch out, because I think this year's going to be the same. You've got some really good teams again this year, and it's going to start with Miami and Clemson and work its way down. And you'll still have some really competitive teams that'll be able to compete with the rest of college football. So I'm excited about that part. And of course, the guys that we took to Media Day kind of tells you, starting off with Carson Beck, what this football program thinks about Carson Beck, right? I think there was a lot of misconceptions out there. I know he's only done one podcast, but he's a true leader. And I think that they respect him a lot down here. Obviously, CC Marinoa was out there, but
he's a mountain. That dude, he's a mountain. Jesus Christmas, is he big?
He's unbelievable.
Yeah, it was interesting. Those two, see, like, kind of the bond they had. That was pretty obvious, the way they talked about each other. And as Jazz said, there was a misconception about Beck. I think a lot of it's just disinformation intentionally, so that he wasn't a good locker room and all this.
People being lazy too.
Yeah, like, let me make up a narrative here. And he kind of, they can fake a lot of stuff. You can't fake that team chemistry when they genuinely talk about each other like that. So I think that was a good sign.
But the biggest one to me, Blue and DJ Vish, was to see the growth of a guy like Wesley Basave. Maturity standpoint, I think he's going to have a big year this year. I'm excited about him.
Yeah, for sure. And just on the first point you made about, like, the conference there, it was funny because they tried to bait Carson Beck into, like, saying some things like, "Oh, you have a great record against the ACC," and he's like, "The conferences don't matter. It's, you're dealing with the defensive coordinators, the schemes they run. Some you match up better with than others." He's like, Duke and South Carolina, same difference, but they run totally different defenses. I might match up better with one versus the other. So it's kind of interesting how everyone finds Jesus when they leave the SEC, but when they're in it, nope, this is the toughest thing in the history of football. So it was interesting, though, to hear him kind of very, again, fighting stereotypes, very intellectual answers. You could tell he's, like, really thinking football wise, really studying film. He like he was naming teams off and kind of, these are the defenses they run on. Very, again, the party boy reputation does not appear to have made it all the way to Miami, because he's pretty clearly locked in over there. So that was great to see.
Well, even when he talked about studying film with his wide receivers and, getting them to learn his tendencies and things like that, you can tell that he's very dedicated to the game and wants to make everybody around him better. And in addition to what he says to the media and things like that, that kind of leadership and kind of taking his teammates under his wing also, proves that he can be a leader for this team as well.
Right.
Yeah, and again, when you start thinking about, why transfer, what has he left to accomplish? It's one thing. Like, he's won the SEC multiple times. He's doing a national championship, and I think he's focused on that. Whether or not the Canes do that or not, it's a whole different story. But I think he obviously thought it was realistic or he wouldn't have come here. And I think that's his goal. I think he's hyper-focused on that goal.
And he's on the Maxwell Award list too now, right?
Yep,
Wow, today, yeah, it just happened.
That's today, yeah.
Yeah, he must be terrible. Jeez.
Although, to be fair with those lists, pretty much every quarterback is on there unless something they're
I think
really
Jake Garcia's on that list right now.
No, shoot. What is he at El Camino Junior College now, or what?
He's at Michigan. Jake Garcia's at Michigan.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Anyways.
More about them than him. Yeah, 34 days we're rocking around. We open the show with that. 34 days. It's next week it'll be less than a month.
Oh my gosh.
What is happening?
It's gonna be wild.
I was at that game too in '77.
Of course you were.
Of course you were.
No, I was at that game.
Man.
I had that program. I should have dug it out for tonight. If I knew that was one of the questions, I would have done that.
Let's stick it out on game week.
I will try. I will look around. I'm gonna go through.
You've got to have some Miami Notre Dame memorabilia to flash.
I do have plenty of that.
All right, so for show and tell for game week.
Yeah, I'm gonna dig out all the Notre Dame stuff.
We're gonna do homework.
Half the show will be memorabilia, and then the rest will be just talking.
All right. What do we got here? Hey, let's talk some offensive linemen, huh?
Yeah.
Speaking of the big uglies, we talked about the trenches last week from the defensive side of the ball, but I think that I'm actually really excited to talk about offensive linemen, which not a lot of people say that all the time, but let's be honest, this potentially could be top, either the top offensive line in the country, top 2 or top 3, right? Like the other ones are actually one that we're gonna play in 34 days, which is Notre Dame. And then the other one might be, Clemson or something like that. So there's, I would say right now we're up there with those. We've got depth. We've built depth. Blue. We've spoken about this a lot, and the first thing that always came up that you said was, we've got no depth at this position. We've got no depth. Yeah, the first 5 are good. Now I feel like right now our second wave. Our second starting 5, you want to say, could potentially start at an ACC program if they were elsewhere. I mean, it's unbelievable to see what this offensive line has done. Credit to Coach Maribal and Coach Cristobal, obviously 2 of the very best in the game when it comes to scouting, analyzing, coaching, developing this position. It is the best position, I think, all around on this team, but also potentially the best in the country. Vish, what are your thoughts on this offensive line? Obviously, with so much talent coming back.
Yeah, I mean, I titled the show, so you can get my opinion right out of the show title. But I just went out on a limb there. Like you said, it's definitely one of the best, and I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna own this opinion. But yeah, no, I think it's veteran. Once again, went and got a veteran center. That seems to be like a successful revolving door. Getting everyone back healthy, getting Rodriguez back healthy this year is like another, like you said, depth. Definitely he might start. I think that's the only position we're not 100% sure if he or McCoy will start. I think the other 4 are locked in with Maui Noah, Cooper, Brockermeyer, and Bell. But then, yeah, I'm excited for the depth. I'm excited they're going to be able to rotate people in. I mean, we don't talk a lot about how important it is to keep linemen fresh, not just, across the season, but in the middle of games when you really want to wear teams down the second half. And so the ability to rotate in, McCoy, maybe get Okunlola finally in there. And And, that size, and just have him and Markel Bell is also massive. Have them lean on people for 4 quarters and be able to rotate and stay fresh, and, have that defensive line just dead in the 3rd and 4th quarter. Huge. I'm really excited for this unit. I do think they're the best in the country, and just the depth and how they're going to be able to rotate, and I'm hoping run the football. I've been beating that drum, but I think this offensive line is key to doing that, and I'm excited to see what they do. And again, fingers crossed everyone stays healthy, because that's when they can really hit that next level. They've been a very good offensive line, but I think there's another gear that they can shift into if everyone stays healthy and they're able to rotate people in.
And you guys talked about depth on the offensive line, and one of the guys that I was looking at is Tommy Kinsler. He played in 10 games last year, but it just speaks to, he was a very talented lineman coming out of high school, and he was a highly talented recruit. And he, saw his first action last season, and big player, 6'6". So it's those types of players and that type of depth that Miami, has kind of built up over the past couple seasons, and now it gives them the flexibility to feel comfortable about the guys they're putting in at multiple spots.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the one thing too is when you look at, like they were talking about front line, obviously, and you can interchange, guys like Ryan Rodriguez, and, having a kid, like James Brockemeyer has got a lot of starts under his belt, but Inez Cooper, who I really think continues over the last few years to make just major strides. And then knowing that the future at the center will be S.J. Falafatula. I guess I just made.
We'll know his name soon enough.
Yeah, S.J. But also, the experience of having someone like Samson Okunlola, a guy like you mentioned, Tommy Kinsler, and then Juan Minaya, who I think that, has got, and I think that the emergence of the next wave, which obviously you're going to lose basically everybody, if not everybody on the front, but then that next wave, will become, a guy like Jaden Wilkerson or a guy like Nino Francavilla, guys like that who I think, Buchanan, Campbell, those are the next wave that they're working on. And then, they'll go into the portal and get a couple of kids. So I agree. I think that this offensive line is front line strong, with a guy
Wilkerson,
like Bell.
Right? Wilkerson's the one that can develop a little bit too, right?
Who's that?
Wilkerson.
Yeah, well, he's 6'7", so it goes in. Yeah, I like him. I think Campbell's got more of the talent, but Wilkerson's got more of the size that you're looking for. And then Buchanan's got more of the versatility where he can play guard and then move in if he has. He can play either guard position or he can play center if need be as well. But the very fact that you saw over the last 2 years somebody like Markel Bell go from an average stiff type of guy to using his 6'8", 6'9" frame to being a for sure NFL drafted guy. I mean, the guy's worked really hard. Technically, he's getting sounder and sounder all the time. And then I think that the other guy that I'm really, really high on, and I think that he's made major strides, is Inez Cooper. I think that's another guy who I think that has benefited from having somebody, having two coaches like, Mirabel and Mario to be there. And I told you during the spring, I sat and watched the offensive line drill for 40 minutes. And the difference is you got somebody like a Mario Cristobal who won't pat you on the ass for making a mistake. He'll make you do it again. And to me, that's a big difference in coaching, because when you pat somebody on the ass and say, "Oh, you'll get them next time," most likely you won't get them next time. So I think that coaching tech and the tech, what people, there's a lot of people outside the Miami program that make fun of Mirabal. Oh, he's 4'9". How could he know anything about? Let me tell you something. You watch that guy. From a technical standpoint, I don't think there's a better teacher in college football. He knows every facet of where you're supposed to be, where your arms are supposed to be, where your pad levels are supposed to be. And I watch him, and I'll tell you what, he could correct things real quickly. That's why And I agree with Vish. If Miami's not the best offensive line, they're the most technically sound offensive line in the ACC for sure.
I think that, and I'll answer this question here from Parrish, who would early start to benefit more if they had this a small injury?
Yeah, he kind of asked two related questions.
Yeah.
So feel free to knock those out.
I mean, I think the guy that we can't afford to lose the most is because the limited amount of, I would say, depth there is the center, maybe because of Brockermeyer after him.
But Ryan Rodriguez could play center.
Right, that's what I was about to say. Like, SJ would technically be in the 2 deep, but if it was early, you'd probably move Ryan Rodriguez to center.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important that I think actually we can't lose a guy like Ryan Rodriguez more than a starter.
Yeah, he's more versatile.
Right. And if you ask me, he's the guy that's going to be able to get a lot of playing time this year. And him, and I know a lot of people are high on Okolola still, but for me, Juan Minaya, you mentioned him, Blue. I think it's Minaya and Rodriguez are the two top guys after the starters, with Okolola close by there too. And then Kinsler, because Kinsler is very talented. But versatility-wise, I think Ryan Rodriguez is number one, and then Minaya is just a big dude that can play guard or tackle. So I think that he's versatile in that aspect as well. It's just fun to be able to say, well, plug in Ryan Rodriguez and you're not really going to lose a step at any position that he wants to play. Plug in Okolola, and I think you'll be okay at tackle. Plug in Minaya at guard or tackle, and I think you'll be all right. So I think those are great things. And then the development of the other guys like Wilkerson and Campbell and Francavilla and so on, and Buchanan. I think Buchanan is going to be a monster here in a couple of years, so I'm looking forward to that.
He'll be like Ryan Rodriguez because he's going to be versatile, and you can plug him in at 3 different positions, the 2 guard positions in center. So, and I don't, Jazz, how valuable that is, especially of having linemen. DJ, somebody who can play multiple positions for you up front, and you're always going to lose something when a starter comes out, but you don't want a drop off that that they've had in the past, because they've had guys that were good and then they dropped to the second level and they weren't that good, and they exposed. And it's just like anything. Like if you lose a defensive back that's average, and you bring in a defensive back that average, a good offensive coordinator is going to pick your ass apart. So the same has to be for defensive coordinators. If they see that somebody like a Mawanoa goes out, they're going to go, okay, well, he's got a guy to come in for him, but there's no way they're going to be able to do what he does. Just no way. But I think, and I said this over and over again, Miami's from a technical standpoint, and that sometimes, you look at guys who are undersized like Zach Thomas and people like that who were technically sound. And that makes up for what they aren't physically or what they aren't, speed wise, but they make up for it because they're technically sound and they're one play ahead. And I think that holds true with the offensive linemen that Miami's had. And that's from education, and that's from classroom, and that's from repetitive, situations. And that's for, not patting you on the ass and say it's okay. And that's a difference, whether people think so or not. That's part of coaching, DJ. That if you continue to do it right, then you'll do it right in the game. If you continue to get rewarded for doing it wrong, you're going to make mistakes in the game. So.
Absolutely. And the importance of an offensive line, too, is very dependent on what type of quarterback you have. If you have a mobile quarterback like Cam Ward, for example, you can maybe get away sometimes with, a makeshift offensive line. But if you have a Carson Beck type of quarterback that tends to function more in the pocket and is still in the pocket, and that's not a knock on Carson Beck, that's just his playing style, then the importance of a healthy offensive line increases. And like you said, Blue, it's important that, players follow through and learn how to do things correctly, because one wrong move and your quarterback can get hurt and be out for the season. So, this whole unit is extremely important to not only, to have a good offensive line, but also the health of the entire offense. Because, how Carson Beck plays is how the Miami offense is going to play. So,
We'll put it this way. You know
Yeah.
how encouraging and how crazy it would be when your running backs are running through holes, running over people,
Yep.
Getting first downs. You know how excited the offensive line gets for that? We're talking about mean streak after mean streak after mean streak. And now they're going to have all the confidence in the world to be bullying people up front and just wear people down. And that's what you want to see. And I think that this offensive line is obviously going to be beneficial for the running game, but vice versa. I think we have the stable of running backs is going to be able to go. And I don't want to get ahead of myself because we're probably going to talk about them next week.
Next week's show, man. Next week.
Oh, man. But, yeah, it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, just real quick on Blue's point. I think all the things you're talking about kind of relate, right? It's easier to say, all right, do the rep over again when they know there's a backup that'll take their spot, right? It's harder to have that tough love approach when there's no depth and you're significantly better than the backup and there's no way that you're not going to get on the field. And I think as they've continued to build that depth, it's much easier to enforce those standards. Then if you don't earn your way onto the field, you're just not going to play if you don't do it in practice, because we can stick someone else in there and they can get the job done. So I think just that's the culture that's developed here. All right, Mr. Bluestein.
Do we have some time for show and tell?
We always have time for show and tell.
Technology, baby. Technology.
Okay, I'm going to get it.
There you go.
I'm going to do had a couple of choices, but I'm going to go with something from the 90s. I was going to go some with the 70s, but this was the Miami-San Diego State game back in 1991.
Ooh.
And there was a lot of talent, and Marshall Faulk was the running back back in the day for San Diego State. But this was a Steve McGuire, a Darrell Williams type of team. I had a couple of
national champions.
Yes, this was a really good football team, and I'm just trying to get you the picture.
No pastelitos, Max. I'm sick, bro. I'm not eating any pastelitos right now, brother.
But they, Miami's offensive was really a solid.
Ooh, look at those uniforms too.
That's a commercial.
Wow.
That's
I was gonna say, those are
Man, this is 1991, not 1951. What the?
Yeah, I was like, I haven't seen those, man. Let me see those.
Wait, I had a picture there. Okay, of the they had guys on that team. That was San Diego State. I'm sorry. This was the Miami team, and they were loaded with the talent back then. I had what was it? Here, hold on one second. Oh, okay, like Jesse Armstead and Michael Barrow, just the names. Coleman Bennett, Donnell Bennett, Hurley Brown. These were names that people. Horace Copeland, Mario Cristobal, the young man over there, number 7.
Whatever happened to that guy?
Yeah, good team. A lot of talent on the team, and this was suggested by Kelvin Harris, former. Who I was on his show, and he busted my ass. He said, "And when you do your show and tell, make sure you put up the 91 team." There's a lot of good talent.
Montalvo? Is Rafi Montalvo there somewhere?
Yeah, Rafi Montalvo was on the team. Rusty Medeiros, Kevin Patrick. I mean, look at the names. I mean, just Leon Searcy, NFLer.
Rafi Montalvo, owners of Sea Hunter Boats.
Yes, he is. In fact,
his son was a quarterback at Navy, Rafi Jr.
Yes, he was. He played he was at where was he at high school?
Private school, I think Pace, if I'm not mistaken.
No, better.
Was it Belen?
Maybe Columbus. His dad went to Columbus, so that would be
either Belen or Columbus, something like that.
Yeah. But this was a great team. I just wanted to roll that out for you a little bit.
We should also mention Gino Toretta was the quarterback.
Yeah. So here's a
nice
little cover of Charles Farms and Hurley Brown, and but I was going to swing out. This was the infamous fifth down game, Miami and Tulane.
Oh, wow.
When Miami needed got the fifth down, Ed Carney to Whit Beckman in the corner of the end zone. And they got it. They gave Miami a fifth down. They counted it wrong, and Miami won the game.
I'll take
a
it.
lot of things I was unaware of. I learned something there from that last part.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, look it up. Look it up. Tulane, Miami, fifth down game, and it was weird because when we were at the game, I go, "Oh, Jesus, maybe there's a penalty out there," and no one said a word until he caught the touchdown, and the Tulane coach was incensed. But yeah, that was it.
Can you hold that up real quick again? That's a cool looking logo.
On which one?
The second one.
Speaking of Tulane, Jake Rutt.
Yeah, look at that thing. We don't really
I like that logo. That is nice. That is nice.
I like the cover too. I like the cover.
Yeah, that was a cool logo.
Yeah, they but that was a good that was 72. Yeah, 72.
Wow.
That was the year that they that I sat there and UNLV came in and got smoked, and I go, I'm going to go to school there. I had made my mind up I was going there before, but yeah, they came out and Miami hammered them 51-7. Although it was 17-0 at halftime, but back then, Woody Thompson, who I was on a podcast and talking with some guy about Miami back in '73 when they played Texas, and Texas had Roosevelt Leaks and all these really good guys, and Miami beat them. They were number 3 in the nation, Texas, and Miami beat them on a Friday night. I was at the 1967 game when Miami beat USC, who came in at number 5. They beat them 10-7. Miami's then Florida State game that year when Florida State came in number 1 and Miami beat them senseless, like 31-0. And yeah, there were some memorable games in New York.
Good times. Those are good times.
The Bosworth versus Testaverde game, the crazy game with Notre Dame where they sat the media in the first in the end zone on that first row, and when Bernard Clark intercepted the pass and took it in, you couldn't hear yourself think. And Ismail returned the kick, but that was a competitive game. Ned Bolkar intercepted a ball. It was those things. That game was one of the loudest I've ever been to in the Orange Bowl. I was at the a lot of those games, but that's okay. I'm old, so you get a chance to. But I'm going to pull out more of these programs for the future, and my assignment for the opening day is to get as much Notre Dame stuff.
Yep.
I still got the 0-0 tie program, and that was Miami tying Notre Dame in '66, which was a crazy ass good team. But that's it.
I have no idea what he's talking about, but
nobody does. But
I don't know what he's talking about, but I know what's accurate.
But I know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
We love it. We love it.
I know. Well,
Next stands up the fact checking what's blue, so we always know what's accurate.
Harris Stevens, it was some great memories. I mean, it's the best part. The great thing about when I was growing up, we used to go to. Because you couldn't really park at the Orange Bowl. You have to park in somebody's, in their thing, and you get blocked, and you couldn't leave until the next day.
Unless you paid a little extra for no blocking.
So we used to take the bus from Little River in Miami. They used to have a drop-off point, and the Miami News used to come out. And I think I showed you guys every Friday night when they played the Friday night game. They'd come out with this thing, a pink sheet. And they would and it had both rosters. It had pictures. So by the time you got to the game, you would know all about the teams. And I remember when Florida State played down there, and I got a bunch of autographs. And then it wasn't until like maybe 5 years ago when I was looking at it, and Bill Parcells' autograph was on it, and I said, "Oh, damn,
that's cool."
Yeah, I had no idea back then. It's Miami may not have been great while I was growing up, but there was always entertainment, and they always, people didn't like the fact that they played Friday night, but what are you going to do? That was what they started to do. And there were some good games, but I do remember a lot of the USC game, being a USC fan from when I was a little kid, and USC came in and I was so cocky, and Miami beat them 10-7. And I'm thinking, and here's the crazy thing. Nowadays, you'd know by 11-10. Nobody knew till the afternoon of Saturday, because you didn't have cable back then. You didn't have all this stuff that would. So that's why the afternoon papers, that's why the afternoon papers were so integral, because they would have all the box scores for baseball. They would have all the late night football, like when Miami played USC on the West Coast, unless you were listening to the radio that, until 2:00 in the morning, you really didn't know. And you wouldn't know until the next day. It was, weird time. I was telling somebody over the weekend about recruiting, and I said, back in the day when I first started, I used to have to have a pocket full of quarters to make phone calls, because there was no cell phones. There was none of that. You had a pay phone, and crazy. So, you know what? I'm fortunate to have lived in both times, and I think it's made me work harder and harder throughout the years to know that I still do stuff the way I did them, when we had typewriters. But that's it. There's your history lesson for the night.
You definitely have seen some of the best football ever. College, professional.
And the fact that you can remember all this stuff is absolutely crazy. I can really remember what I did yesterday.
It's the lack of drugs that I did, DJ. That's the whole thing. I did.
DJ basically saying you need to lay off the drugs. Okay.
Either that or give me some so I can remember what I did yesterday.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah. So I'm excited about next week. As we come closer, me and DJ are going to confer the night before we pick the season record.
Yeah. We've been pretty lockstep on some of these predictions.
That's coming up soon. We got a couple weeks before that, but that's coming up soon. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on the show today. Make sure you follow us at 6 Rings Canes on X. Subscribe to the 5 Reasons 5 Reasons Canes podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is that you get your podcast. Make sure you tune in, check us out there. Subscribe to YouTube as well. At 5 Reasons Sports Network, and subscribe there, and you'll get our shows as they pop up live every Monday at 8:30 p.m. as well on YouTube. So check it out. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. I'm sorry I sound like complete crap, but we'll be back at it next week with more Canes football, potentially some Canes baseball. I know Buckets has some stuff coming up soon, as well as F1, everything else.
Yeah, everything's kicking off. It is. I mean, after ACC Media, it's football season now.
It's football season.
It is football season.
It's game time for DJ, not for me. Shoot.
I am. I know. I gotta play. We're in an NCAA football league, so I gotta play the late game at 10 o'clock.
Yeah. Maybe for me too. I gotta go take a walk, and then maybe I'll go get on the console contraption thing too.
Yeah, do it up.
Do it. All right, guys. We'll see you guys next week. Adios.
See ya.
The 6 Rig Kane Show. Yeah. The 6 Rig Kane Show. Yeah. The 6 Rings Kane Show. You know.